Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you all. My name is Mustafa Hassan, and I'm proud to say that I belong to two great places. I belong to the Bridgeport Islamic Community Center, the Outreach Committee. I also belong to CONECT, the strategy team. Today I'm here to celebrate with you the recognition and the inclusion of Eid holiday into the Bridgeport public school calendar. All right, thank you. We all did it together. We all did it together. I want to tell you this. Eid is the Muslims' holiday, comes after the holy month of Ramadan, a whole month of fasting from sunrise to sunset, a month of learning, perseverance, and self-control. I'm proud to say that our school children were the ones who led the efforts of educating the members of the Board of Education in Bridgeport about the Eid and its importance to the Muslim community. After 2 years of organizing and building power, the Eid holiday was proudly added to the district's holiday calendar by the Bridgeport Board of Education. Eid is now recognized next to Christmas, Hanukkah, and other holidays that we Americans celebrate together. Ladies and gentlemen, the celebration of Eid is a celebration of equity, diversity, and inclusion in our country. When the issue came to a vote at the Board of Education meeting earlier this year, our Jewish, Christian, and Sikh brothers and sisters, the member of CONECT, did not hesitate to give us the support that we need. We as a Muslim community were deeply touched. We will never forget the strong speeches and the letters of support from pastors, reverends, and rabbis to the member of the Board of Education. It meant a lot to us. I personally believe that CONECT is a phenomenal role model for this example. Despite of our differences, our diverse members firmly determined to work together for the common good and the shared values of our faith. We're proud to be part of CONECT. Thank you. Finally, CONECT is sending a strong message to politicians, lawmakers, and the state of Connecticut that diversity, equity, and inclusion are what make our community and our state strong and great. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mustafa. People are worried about our country. What can we trust? Who can we trust? But we CONECT, we are people of faith. Faith in God and faith in democracy. As people of faith, we don't just say, oh, I have faith, and go on about our day. Yes, faith gives us hope, but our faith compels us to act, to, in the Jewish tradition, tikkun olam, to repair the world. In Islam, adela ikdamaya, to bring about social justice. In Christian traditions, to bring about the kingdom here and now. And in the Sikh tradition, ikankar, one divine for all and belief in goodness for all, sarbat dal bala, driven by upholding equality, justice, and love. Yes, CONECT, we are a people of faith in action. Mustafa just shared the power of 2 years of collective action to obtain recognition for the importance of Eid for the students in Bridgeport. Our member congregations have been in action since January, listening to the stories of challenge and struggle that weigh on people's hearts. 24 congregations held 130 house meetings with 1,029 people. Small groups of people worked diligently over this past summer, breaking those problems down into actionable issues that we can take action on criminal legal reform, mental health, and education. And this afternoon, CONNECT, we continue to be a people of faith in action. We are bringing these stories and these issues to our candidates for public office to hear their views and ask for their commitments to work with us should they be elected. We know that democracy requires full, active participation, and we are here.
And so since we're here, let's see who's here. It's time for a good old CONNECT roll call. So we're going to call now on our Zoom chair first, as our in-person will now prepare. We call on Reverend Horace Huff to hear who's online.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. So good to know that we are all together virtually and in person. We currently have 132 accounts. 3, 4, if I count the waiting room. So we have great support. The organizations that are represented fully online right now are Calvary Baptist Church in Norwalk, Connecticut, along with St. John's Episcopal Church in Bridgeport, Connecticut. We have many, many others, and I don't want to slight them. So I'm going to let those of you in person take care of the rest. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Reverend Huff, and we welcome all of our Zoom attendees. Let's now hear from those in person here at Congregation B'nai Israel.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Lynette Ferguson. I'm the Executive Director of Alliance for Community Empowerment, and we are 5.
Good afternoon. I'm Rabbi Ita Paskine from Congregation Bethel in Norwalk, and we are 7.
Good afternoon. My name is Jack O'Melia from St. Jerome Roman Catholic Church in Norwalk, and today we have 15 people here.
Good afternoon. My name is Richard Pierce. I represent First Baptist Church of Milford, Connecticut, and we have 10 members present this afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Carolyn Wetzel from St. Raphael in Milford, Connecticut, and we have 7 people here this afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Tom Flynn. I'm representing the Council of Churches of Greater Bridgeport, and we have 5 members here today.
Hello all, I'm Deborah Tangarone from Spring Glen Church in Hamden. We have 20 here today.
Good afternoon, I'm Rita Skog. I'm with First Church Congregational Fairfield, and we have 9 members here today.
Good afternoon, everyone. Representing Bridgeport Islamic Community Center, and we have over between 30 and 40 people in person and online.
Good afternoon. My name is Pearlie Samsal, and I'm from Mount Airy Baptist Church, and we have 30 people here today.
Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Hopper, and I represent the United Church on the Green in New Haven, and today we have 15 members joining.
I'm Kathleen Mills. This is Helen. We're from Holy Trinity Lutheran Church in Trumbull, and we have 10 people here today.
Good afternoon. I'm Rita Weiskopf from Temple Israel in Westport. We have 38 people.
My name is Dr. Rick Hamitz-Case. I'm representing St. John's Bridgeport, and we have 5 people participating today.
My name is Eric Fishman. I'm from Temple Shalom in Norwalk, and we have 5 attendees.
My name is Kate Gloss. I'm from St. James Stratford, and we have 20 people here today. I'm Alana Rosenberg from Temple Emmanuel. We have 8 members here today.
Hi, Kathy Wyant here from St. Paul's Fairfield Episcopal, and we have 11 members here today.
Hi, Reverend Iona Smith-Enzi, pastor of the historic Bethel AME Church here in Bridgeport. We have 13 members today.
I'm Charlie Pillsbury with Shalom United Haven, and there are 4 of us today. That's 20% of our.
Good afternoon. My name is Denise Armstrong Rose. Hear he, hear he, hear he. Community Baptist Church New Haven is here with Philippe Andel and 27 jubilant members.
I can't beat that. I'm Maureen Lopes from New Haven Friends Meeting, and we have a total of 14 people online and here. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Yolanda.
Hello, everybody. I'm Keisha Evans from Faith Acts for Education. We have 22 people here and more online.
Hello, my name is Yolanda Skinner, and I'm from Grace Baptist Church in Norwalk, and we are 3 strong today.
Hello, I'm Pam Miller from the Unitarian Society of New Haven in Hamden, and we have 53 people here or online.
I'm Emily Lehrman. This is my home congregation, Congregation B'nai Israel. On behalf of both our rabbis and our cantor and our congregation, welcome. We have 70 people represented online and here tonight.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Marco Iliescas. I represent St. Rosa of Lima from Meriden. We're a new congregation. There's 14 of us here today. We believe in organized power and organized money.
CONECT, please extend a warm welcome to all of these candidates.
CONECT, we are so grateful to have confirmed all 6 of our statewide candidates for being here today, and we are grateful to you, CONECT, for being here today. This candidates assembly is a concrete demonstration of the best of what democracy can be. After all, it is possible to bring people and candidates together to listen, to learn, and to engage with each other civilly. It is possible to acknowledge and respect differences of opinion, to speak truth to power and to build power, and to stay in relationship to positively impact the challenges that people face every day in our great state. And it is possible for people of faith to have a healthy public life that makes a positive difference through the vehicle of democracy. People only have faith in democracy when they see it actually working. So as people of faith, I can think of no better exemplars. And we declare that this shall be done in our sight today. Amen? Amen.
So this afternoon, we focus our issues, the issues we've heard from our several months of House meetings. We bring the issues forward with stories, explanations, and proposed actions. We will begin with candidates for Secretary of State and Treasurer. We have 1 question and 1 issue that will be directed to the candidates for each position. Each question will require a yes/no answer. After giving a yes/no answer, each candidate will be given 2 minutes to offer remarks. We have 3 issues to bring to the gubernatorial candidates. 1, criminal legal reform. 2, mental health. And 3, education. Stories and explanations for all 3 issues will first be presented by our CONECT leaders. Mr. Stefanowski will then be invited to the stage to respond with a clear yes-no answer to each issue question. He will have 60 seconds to elaborate on each answer if he chooses. Mr. Stefanowski will then have 3 minutes for additional remarks. We will follow the same process for Governor Lamont. We will ask all of our candidates for office at the end of their final remarks if they will commit to a working relationship with CONECT should they be elected. All candidates have been briefed on this format, and they are aware of the questions that they will be asked. There will be 2 timekeepers who will keep the candidates and all of us to our allotted times so we can move through our very full agenda on time. Our timekeepers are Mr. Kenny Foscue and Ms. Cindy Zuckerbrod. And finally, we will end our afternoon with a call to action for all of you, making sure we carry the energy of this experience of democracy onward to Election Day and beyond.
So to help keep our attention and to hold ourselves and our candidates accountable, there is a chart in your agenda packet today where you can track each candidate's clear yes or no answers. And there are some ground rules that we'll be using today so that we can get through our ambitious agenda on time. I need some crowd participation today. The first rule is be prompt. Let the people say be prompt. We will begin on time, we will stay on time, and we will end on time. Amen. Number 2, let the people say be polite. We will respect the assembly and the candidates with our respectful attention, and we politely ask that there be no cheering, booing, or heckling. Those who cannot follow this rule will be asked to leave immediately. As this is a nonpartisan event, we have asked that no campaign paraphernalia, including literature, buttons, banners, t-shirts, and other materials be present on the synagogue's ground. Additionally, we ask the candidates to respect us by respecting each other and by responding directly to our speakers and the stories and issues that they will raise, rather than to each other and snipping with one-liners and sound bites. Number 3, let the people say be prepared. Every CONECT speaker has prepared thoughtfully, has rehearsed diligently, and will shave bravely. Every candidate has been engaged relationally, has been briefed thoroughly, and has been given our research, our issues, and our questions in advance. We believe that our experiences are representative, that our conversations are informative, and that our public relationships can and will be transformative. We engage this way not for selfish, personal, or political gain, but to establish justice and equity in our communities. As Cornel West said, justice is what love looks like in public. And our final rule today is number 4, let the people say be personal. We will be hearing personal stories this afternoon, and we ask that the assembly and the candidates respect the personal nature of the stories and be sensitive to what is shared. We also ask the candidates to address their answers and comments to CONECT leaders and not to the other candidates. Please remember, everyone, that this is not a debate. But this is a time to share, to listen, and to respond thoughtfully to the issues that affect our communities, because this is what democracy looks like. Let me hear you say that, CONECT. Let's say that together. This is what democracy looks like. So if you're ready to see what democracy looks like, clap your hands in this house and let's get ready to engage relationally.
We are ready for our first set of candidates. For Secretary of State, the issue of early voting. We invite Ms. Lurleen DeVos to come forward.
It has been said that a government that does not reflect the electorate is not a democracy. Unfortunately, Connecticut's current highly restrictive election day only voting prevents many citizens from exercising their civil right to vote. Our state is one of only 4 that doesn't allow the early voting that provides the flexibility that many voters need. In fact, by tomorrow morning, 2 weeks before the November 8th election, voting will be underway in at least 32 other states. Essential workers, people with disabilities, single parents, folks caring for the sick and the elderly, and those relying on public transportation are among the many negatively affected by our current election day only voting process. This restrictive system disproportionately impacts communities of color and low-income communities. It suppresses their voices and the opportunity to have their issues meaningfully addressed.
That's an easy one, yes. I know you're serious about time. I represent the American dream, poor family background offset by hard work. I've been managing people since the age of 16. I have a master's degree in management, and after rising from intern to company president for a nonprofit fundraising consulting company, I eventually started my own successful firm working for the nonprofit community. In 2017, I got more involved in Norwalk, where I live, learning how our political process works, and more importantly, who sits at those tables. I ran for state representative after deciding that those who can, must, and cannot sit on the sidelines and point a finger. I was elected in 2020 and currently serve as vice chair of our elections committee in Hartford. In that role, I was proud to co-sponsor and help shepherd many reforms the past 2 years, getting this early voting referendum on the ballot, restoring parolee voting rights, passing automatic voter registration, expanding the reasons by which we can vote absentee, and more. But there is still much work to do. I'm running for Secretary of the State because I believe in transparency and efficiency in government. I believe that our business community needs fewer impediments to help them thrive. And I'm running because for a reason that I heard no one talking about, civic education and civic engagement. We've done ourselves a disservice in this country by teaching people that voting is their only civic responsibility. Our representative form of democracy requires active participation the other 364 days of the year. I want to teach young people and adults how to do better, vetting candidates, how to make their voice heard after Election Day, and to understand the laws that govern the process. Only with intentionality will we finally achieve a more perfect union. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Thomas. Representative Thomas. David, just one more quick question for you. Thank you so much for your remarks. If you win the November 8th election, will you commit to a public working relationship with CONECT and agree to an initial follow-up meeting with a team of CONECT leaders within your first 60 days of office if elected?
Another easy one. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Thomas. We now invite Mr. Rapini to come forward to answer with a yes, no to the question, and you have 2 minutes for remarks.
Could you phrase the question for us?
Absolutely. If the November 8th early voting referendum is adopted, will you commit to quickly pushing for a robust multi-day plan for early voting that includes at least one weekend to ensure ample opportunities for all citizens to vote? Yes or no?
Liz, absolutely. That would be my job.
And you now have up to 2 minutes for remarks.
Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Don Grappini. I come to this campaign and to this office with over 3 decades of experience in technology, business, and since 2019, I've done the hard work and I've rolled up my sleeves and worked on Connecticut elections to understand the realities of Connecticut's election process. You know, working at Apple for the last 26 years, you know, one of the things that is very important to understand is that we don't win all of our arguments. Not everything that we have to do is agreed upon by everybody. But one thing where we always come together is after we come to a decision as a team, as a large corporation, we come together, we're professional, we make the job happen, right? My job here as Secretary of State is not to tell you what you want to hear. I know what you want to hear today. I heard you, all right? But my job is to tell you what you need to hear. And so I will tell you, as somebody who's actually been an election day moderator and who's been working in business as long as I have, that there are serious issues that we have to understand with early voting. It is an unfunded mandate for us where it can cost 30 days of it can cost $15 to $20 million. We already have one of the highest voter turnouts in the United States, including all those states with early voting. And what's also important is that we have a mostly part-time workforce that has that have other things to do in their lives, right? They work 10, 20 hours a week as registrars, but now they would be crushed, and it would create chaos for them to have to all of a sudden work 30 days, no longer able to take care of their children, no longer able to work their full-time job. We will lose a valuable talent. So I will tell you this, you know, my pledge as Secretary of State is that I will go to work every day, and I will go to do this job in a nonpartisan way. I will leave the R at the door. I will roll up my sleeves and do the work to make our elections the freest, fairest, and most secure elections possible. And I am prepared to do my life's work, make the sacrifice of leaving Apple so that every day I can serve the state of Connecticut and each and every one of you. Thank you and Godspeed.
Mr. Rapini, one more question for you. Yes, sir. If you win the November 8th election, will you commit to a public working relationship with CONECT and agree to an initial follow-up meeting with a team of CONECT leaders within 60 days of your election?
I will work with everybody.
Is that a yes?
That's a yes.
Thank you, sir. We now call on our second issue in our treasurer section for investment in Connecticut youth. We now call on Dr. Monette Ferguson.
I'm a little taller than the last person. Good afternoon, everyone. Last year, outgoing State Treasurer Sean Wooden championed the idea of baby bonds, and the Connecticut State Legislature approved the plan by broad bipartisan majorities, 167 votes in favor to just 7 opposed. The law was signed by Governor Lamont on June 30th, 2021. With baby bonds, Connecticut will invest $3,200 on behalf of babies who were covered by Husky, the state's Medicare program, in other words, poor children. One strategy to address the extreme wealth inequity and the racial wealth gap in Connecticut, which are among the worst in the nation, by investing in our children. Connecticut is the first state in the nation to adopt baby bonds, and now other states are following. The annual cost of the program would be about $50 million. That's only 1% of the full $47 billion state budget. Originally, when passed, all children born after July 1st, 2021 were supposed to be eligible. Unfortunately, about 3 weeks after Treasurer Wooden announced in April 2022 that he would not seek election, the government and the state legislature amended the plan to push it back by 2 years, making children born after July 1st, 2023 eligible. Electoral politics got in the way of investing in poor children. To our candidates, if elected, would you push to see the baby bonds program through to implementation? If not, what would you propose to close the vast wealth gap in Connecticut and invest in poor children?
Thank you, Dr. Ferguson. Again, unfortunately, received a call this afternoon that Representative Aurora is ill and unable to be with us today, and we pray for his speedy recovery. He did send a written statement that we can provide if you're interested on the way out. We do have Mr. Russell here, and we invite you to come forward now as a treasurer candidate to respond to the question, yes or no, and to offer 2-minute remarks.
So the answer is very easy. It is yes. And I will say that this is an issue that is personal to me in so many ways because I'm the first person in my family to break through the racial and generational wealth gap. I grew up in New Haven. My father was a paratrooper in the Army. He turned 80 this year. And when he was stationed in Germany is where he met my mother. And they moved to New Haven with very little and started a small convenience store on Congress Avenue, a pretty tough area of the city. And I grew up working in that store every day and watched my family struggle to make ends meet and pay the bills. And it was through their hard work and sacrifice that I had the opportunity to get a good education and be the first in my family to graduate from college and then law school here in Connecticut. And I know that it is an unlikely story for me to be standing on this stage today, but there's nothing that sets me apart from so many of my peers growing up other than having that little chance and opportunity. And so looking at baby bonds, this is a huge opportunity to provide that hope. It's to provide those resources and chance at building something bigger. We know that the biggest indicator for being able to generate wealth is having some wealth itself. And this is that little piece to get started. And thinking about this office, this role is obviously critical to keeping the fiscal health of our state moving forward. It's about making sure we're protecting our state and municipal employees and teachers and retirees. But it is also about providing opportunity, and particularly for communities that have not had that opportunity. So in addition to baby bonds, I am looking to expand our financial literacy programming, investing in youth so that they are coming up with the skills to succeed as they're moving forward, and constantly looking at opportunities to develop programming to lift all of our boats, because it's not only in the interest of those individuals, but it's in the overall interest of our state economically. And I will get ahead of you and say a very clear yes to looking forward to partnering with CONECT moving forward if elected treasurer. So thank you all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Russell. Thank you for your response to both of those questions. We now invite Mr. Mustafa Hassan and Ms. Deborah Tangarone forward to speak about our Friends of CONECT appeal.
Good afternoon. I'm Deborah Tangarone from Spring Glen Church in Hamden, and I am honored to co-chair the Friends of CONECT campaign with Mustafa Hassan of the Bridgeport Islamic Community Center. It was great to hear the roll call earlier and to welcome St. Rose as our newest member. Our dues base is solid and growing, but CONECT cannot thrive and grow on dues and foundation grants alone. If we hope to keep growing our power by deepening our work with our current member congregations and institutions, and by broadening our work to include more congregations and institutions, we need to grow our organizing capacity. That takes organized money. That's why we need your help.
As the co-chair of the Friends of CONECT, our annual campaign for individuals donors, I'm excited to announce that as of tonight, Sunday evening, we have over $43,000 in contributions towards our goal of $125,000 for the year 2022. I'm also proud and happy to say that 100% of the CONECT strategy team members have contributed, as have few major donors. So we invite all of you to consider contribution as well, right now.
We have to give folks a little time to do so. And so I want to encourage you even now, as Mustafa has said, go ahead and pull out your agenda, hold them up in the air. Let me see all the agendas in the air. All righty? Let me see your phone in the air too. Come on, put your phones up. Now scan the QR code and we'll give you just a few seconds, amen, a few seconds to give to our Friends of Connect campaign. We truly are making a difference in this state, and we are so excited about everything that we're going to be able to do because you are doing your part to help build our collective power. And so now we are preparing to move into our gubernatorial section of our assembly. And so as we begin this section, we want to note that Mr. Stefanowski is present with us now, and we thank you for that. And we also want to note that Governor Lamont is en route, but he is engaging with us via Zoom and will arrive shortly. And our Zoom chair will try to spotlight him as he is en route joining us via Zoom. We will hear now from three different issue teams in which we are engaging our gubernatorial candidates. The first issue team we will hear from is our criminal legal reform team, and our presenters will be Mr. Rodney Moore and Mr. Gaylord Salters.
Good afternoon. My name is Rodney Moore, Tri-Chair with the Criminal Legal Reform Team with CONECT. In my work with New Haven Healthy Start, out of the Community Foundation of Greater New Haven, I work with incarcerated fathers who try to and help them get back into the lives of their families, and also work with them to try to be a contributor in their communities. Now, for me, this assembly brings us full circle from the last time we were together in 2018. 4 years ago, CONECT talked with our communities, all of you, and we were heard from that criminal records were holding members of our communities back from getting good jobs, getting good housing, and higher education, and much more. We met with experts and we researched the issue. We started the Clean Slate campaign. We invited candidates for governor to assembly just like this and asked whether they would support Clean Slate. We found legislative champions in Senator Winfield and Representative Strapson, and great allies like the ACLU, the Greater Hartford Interfaith Action Alliance, Qatar, and many others, who all agreed that Clean Slate was a good policy. After a hard-fought 3-year campaign that CONECT led, you can give me some. Clean Slate became a law, and Governor Lamont signed it in June of 2021. You can give another shout for that. But that was just the beginning. Our Clean Slate is the best in the country, but it still leaves people out who should get a chance at a better path in life. When we see how Clean Slate works to lift people up, we'll ask ourselves, why didn't we do it more in the first version of Clean Slate? Now, just around the corner, Clean Slate will begin to be implemented, and we need our state leaders to support the implementation process because thousands and thousands of people in Connecticut and Connecticut as a whole will benefit from Clean Slate if Connecticut implements it the right way. That will take commitment, management, and oversight. So this afternoon, we asked our state leaders again to support Clean Slate because our communities need it and demand it. It's time that Connecticut do away with second-class citizenship that hold people's back after they have served their time. Now at CONECT, we are committed to doing our part to seeing Clean Slate through. So to help those who might be eligible navigate the process, we have collaborated with the Narrative Project to create a Clean Slate website. The website can be found at www.cleanslatect.org. I'm going to say that again, www.cleanslatect.org. So please share that website with your friends, your family, and your network. Now, with that, I'd like to introduce to you the author, Lord Mr. Gaylord Salters.
Good afternoon. First and foremost, I want to commend all parties who voted for Clean Slate. I come from an underserved community, New Haven. Just 4 months ago, I was released from prison after serving 20 years on a wrongful conviction. While I was incarcerated, I began to align myself with nonprofit organizations. I began writing. I started a company, Go Get It Publishing, and I published 2 books from the confines of my cell. I also graduated Goodwin University's entrepreneurial program. And I did these things because I needed to provide an opportunity for generational wealth for my children, and I needed to set myself up so that when I come home, I would have a way to sustain myself. Since being home, I realized how much of a burden I still carry just because I'm a convicted felon. And I say all that to say this. There are real-life implications attached to the successful implementation of Clean Slate, including economic advantages that will be available for many underserved individuals in this state. Today, there are many restrictions on individuals who have criminal convictions on their records, whether felonies or misdemeanors. We lose out on lucrative opportunities because of things done long in the past. As a published author, I personally feel the impact of how prior convictions have limited my opportunities both here and abroad. For example, just last month, over 100 organizations have reprinted the story of my book and my personal story on their personal platforms here and abroad. 12 of those organizations were from Canada, but I may not be able to capitalize on the jobs that will follow from those opportunities simply because I'm a convicted felon. So, I want to say, I don't see Mr. Governor Lamont, but I would like to ask Mr. Stefanowski, will you commit to $3 million of funding over 4 years, $750,000 a year for a Clean Slate implementation office to prevent the people who are eligible for Clean Slate from falling through the cracks? That is a question that I would like to have answered at the proper time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Salters. Thank you, Mr. Moore. Thank you for your stories. Thank you for your question. We will hear the responses from the candidates in a few moments. We want to bring forward our next issue on mental health. Reverend Kingwood and Reverend Spalding are invited to come forward.
Good afternoon. My name is Reverend Nancy Kingwood. I'm Associate Minister at Mount Airy Baptist Church in Bridgeport. And I'm the co-chair with Rena Carr of CONECT's Health and Mental Health team. We have heard hundreds of stories and concerns about mental health during our House meeting campaign, 214 to be exact. After years of pandemic disruption, isolation, loss, and stress, this crisis is no longer quiet or unmentioned. But the truth is, we have a huge unaddressed mental health and trauma issues in our communities for years. COVID has just made them more visible. Now let's hear an example.
Good evening, everyone. I'm not Reverend Lonnie Spalding, I'm Lonnie Spalding, but thank you. Anyway. I'm from Mount Airy Baptist Church, and I want to speak a little bit about trauma. Most people associate trauma with violence, but that's just one symptom of trauma. It's not the complete symptoms. Trauma occurs in people's lives at different times and different places. Sometimes just turn on the news, walking outside your door, just even going to the movies, trauma can happen. My first form of trauma is when my mother died when I was 7 years old. I developed abandonment issues, a little bit of anger. And being at that young age and growing up in New York, wasn't facilities that were available to address such a trauma at that young age. So at that age, I put on this mask, okay? I started wearing a mask. And this mask continued to stay on me. As I grew up in New York, I began to put on other masks. Grew up in New York, you had to be cool, you had to be tough, you had to be strong. Because of that, I led to trying to be that guy in the streets, trying to be cool. So I began to put on other masks. Those masks that I put on led to me getting into trouble at a very young age. And I arrived in the juvenile detention center. And then there, I had to put on a real mask, be tough. And there wasn't counselors. There weren't anyone to talk to about how scared I was. You know, so when I came out, I had this mask. You know, I had this mask that I wore because now I am this tough guy. I perceive to be this tough guy. So I believe that because of a male, we were taught to wear a mask because at a young age, most men are taught not to cry. You know, when you get into something that hurts, not to cry. Even though you know it hurts, you don't cry. You keep it moving. When I discovered the Black Men Resiliency Group, I'm gonna keep running for a second. When I discovered this group right here, I found out that there was men that were in similar circumstances as myself. There was men that had grown up in similar circumstances, that experienced similar things. And in this group, I learned to trust. I learned to speak about things, and I learned to be able to find answers. So I began to put these masks down one by one. I put them down to the point where I could be able to deal and talk with people. Now we're asking the candidates now to provide a safe, comfortable environment for people, men, to learn to be able to go to a place and be able to express themselves and get rid of trauma. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Lonnie. While the crisis requires many solutions, CONECT has started working with a number of allies, one in particular, important piece that is missing here in Connecticut, providing safe and appropriate places for police, non-police responders, and family members to take loved ones in an acute mental health crisis. This is what we might call a third place. This is not prison, where illness is too often criminalized and people don't get the care that they need. And this is not the recovery room, where too often people wait in the waiting room for hours and days in crowded, noisy, and chaotic conditions, only to be sent home with vague plans and little follow-up care. These two places, prison and the emergency room, are the most expensive places and they don't have the best outcomes, and we can do better. I do want to acknowledge my co-chair, Rena. She is on, and I believe we are having technical difficulties, so I'm going to read her piece as well. The good news is that these third places do exist and are very successful. Is she on? Oh, Rena.
Hi. Hi, can you hear me?
All the way from India.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, my name is Reena Kaur Arora, and I'm from Sikh Gurdwara in Norwalk, Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Foundation. And thank you for giving me time and opportunity from here. Hello from India. So good news is that the third places do exist, and they are very successful, but not here in Connecticut. Crisis stabilization centers staffed with psychologists, psychiatrists, and social workers are up and running in Cleveland, Chicago, and Virginia, and elsewhere. Another model which is peer-run respite centers, they also exist in New York State, Massachusetts, and 12 other states. Peer respite centers are run by people who have lived with mental illnesses and now have been trained and certified to help others with mental illnesses. It's time that Connecticut invest in these type of innovative third places to help our communities address mental health crisis in more humane and effective way. We believe that this investment will work with law enforcement easier to help reduce the criminalization and harm that too often results without them. Thank you.
Thank you, Rena. And the question, if elected, will you work with CONECT and other advocates to lead the state in investigating the best mix of these two models, peer-run respite centers and crisis stabilization centers for our state, and prioritize funding to get pilots open and operating in our communities during the first 2 years of your term? Thank you.
Thank you so much to our mental health issue team. Our next issue we will be hearing about is education funding from Miss Melanie Lee of Mount Airy Baptist Church, and we'll hear 2 stories from Sister Janice Williams of Community Baptist Church via video and Miss Jessica Rodriguez of St. Rose.
Good afternoon. In its decision in Horton versus Meskel in 1977, the Connecticut Supreme Court ruled that a system of school financing that relied on local property tax revenues without regard to disparities in town wealth and that lacked significant equalizing state support was unconstitutional. 45 years later, we have seen many plans and formulas come and go, but very little real progress. With 169 different municipalities in the state of Connecticut, schools are at the mercy of a complex and inequitable educational funding program, weighing too heavily on local property taxes. This impacts students, parents, teachers, and communities across Connecticut, creating massive, disturbing disparities. Today, Connecticut spends $713 million more to educate white children each year than we spend to educate children of color. That's not just unconstitutional, but unacceptable. In these unprecedented times, we need record-breaking responsiveness to this challenge. Funding for all public school students based on their learning needs, academic, social, physical, and emotional. Fully funding all public schools, not just magnet schools. Financial stability to make long-term investments in resources such as teachers, counselors, social workers, school psychologists, student support services and programs immediately, not 10 years from now. And securing the funding necessary to close the gap made by the pandemic pit of student achievement in math and reading. We want to thank and recognize our allies at Faith Acts for Education who have been fighting the good fight on this issue. We want to thank them for the good fight on this issue for years now. We're excited to have you here with us today and to join you in this critical struggle. Now, let's hear from 2 mothers about how these disparities in funding affect their children.
I am a member of Community Baptist Church. I was born and raised in New Haven, and my 9th grader has been a New Haven public school student since kindergarten. My son Jason attends one of the city's comprehensive high schools in the morning. He takes elective classes at ACES, Educational Center for the Arts, in the afternoon. He began high school with 6 core classes on his schedule, but he started the year with only 3 teachers. I brought this to the attention of my son's guidance counselor on August 31st. She, in turn, passed my message along to the school principal. The principal explained that the issues with my son's schedule were due to the nationwide teacher shortage. While I understand this fact, the response was unsatisfactory. He was not positioned for a successful launch to his high school experience. After repeated follow-ups, my son's schedule was full by September 26th. The nationwide teacher shortage is disproportionately impacting the schools in New Haven and other urban districts. Qualified teachers are paid more in other districts. Additionally, our principal, who happens to be new to the school, is without key administrative staff support. I even offered to help in the office as a volunteer or as a short-term contractor. I have relationships within city government and district administration that may have hastened getting my son's schedule filled, but not every parent is in the position to advocate for their student in this way. Connecticut boasts Education Week's 2020 report ranking Connecticut schools in the top 3 in the nation. But that statistic is misleading, with so many wealthy towns that surround our urban districts struggling to get students to grade level proficiency. I don't know a parent or engaged citizen in New Haven who is not concerned about the education of our children. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jessica Rodriguez, and I am a leader in the Education Task Force at St. Rose of Lima in Meriden. And I'm here to represent our families in our community. St. Rose of Lima launched a listening campaign to bring to the surface vital issues that our families are facing. The issue that hit the heart of the community the hardest is education. Meriden is the 2nd lowest funded school district in the state of Connecticut. My story as a parent is that my daughter was one of the many children that needed tutoring after nearly 2 years of remote learning after the pandemic. I was notified that she would receive tutoring because she was below the 25th percentile in her iReady test scores. She was put on a waiting list with other students to receive tutoring because it was done in cycles. There were not enough tutors available compared to the number of children that needed these services. Children needed to go to out-of-state, out-of-district schools to receive tutoring. My daughter made some progress, rose to the 18th percentile, and they discontinued tutoring because they felt it was good enough. But it left my daughter feeling frustrated, unsupported, and it left me furious. It leaves me in disbelief that outdoor learning spaces would take precedence over the hiring of teaching staff and support that our district desperately needs, especially with Meriden performing lower than other towns. Our children should have a quality education and every resource available to them. Our children's education should not be the second choice. Thank you.
So after hearing all of that, my question is, if elected, may we count on you to lead the charge in fairly and fully funding our school systems now with at least $250 to $275 million to assure that we can make a seamless transition from COVID relief funding to student-centered investments that will meet the needs of all Connecticut public school students promised some 45 years ago? Yes or no?
Thank you, Ms. Lee, Ms. Williams, and Ms. Rodriguez. We are now moving into the time when we hear the answers from our gubernatorial candidates. We invite Mr. Bob Stefanowski to come forward to respond with yes, no answers to the 3 questions. And up to 60 seconds for each issue response. Mr. Stefanowski will also have an additional 3 minutes to offer remarks. I now invite Mr. Salters to come forward to ask the question on criminal legal reform.
All right, on criminal legal reform. Thank you. So with respect to criminal legal reform, Mr. Stefanowski, Mr. Stefanowski, with respect to criminal legal reform, will you commit to $3 million of funding over 4 years, $750,000 a year, for a clean slate implementation office for the purpose of making sure that individuals who are eligible for clean slate will not fall through the cracks?
Absolutely, that should be more.
Thank you.
We now call on our mental health issue team leader, Reverend Nancy Kingwood, for the mental health question.
I just realized I voided my 30 seconds. Sorry.
If elected, will you work with CONECT and other advocates to lead the state in investigating the best mix of the 2 models we explained, the peer-run respite centers and the crisis stabilization centers for our state? And, this was a big thing for us, prioritize funding to get pilots open and operating in our communities during your first 2 years in your term.
Absolutely. In fact, I'd like to come on November 9th at 10 o'clock, and I'd love to meet with you and talk about that. This 30-second rule is tough, but let's go to the next question.
If elected, may we count on you to lead the charge in fairly and fully funding our school systems now with at least $250 to $275 million to assure that we can make a seamless transition from COVID relief funding to student-centered investments that will meet the needs of all Connecticut public school students that was promised some 45 years ago? Yes or no?
Yes, and I may use 90 seconds. First of all, thank you for having me here. On that question, I'm a product of the public schools. I grew up on the corner of Dixwell Avenue and Pond Street, 3-family house. I was in the bottom floor. My grandparents were in the middle floor. And we had crazy Southern Indian college students on the top floor. I still remember the parties. And I remember when my dad came to me, he said, "Robbie, we're going to move to North Haven." I said, "Why?" And he said, "I went to Hill House. Your mom went to St. Mary's, and we're going to try to get a better education." I didn't want to move. Talk about affordable housing. We moved into a $25,000 house in North Haven. And this is not a sob story. I have 3 older sisters. My bedroom was a closet, a walk-in closet, thank you, which was fine until I passed 6 feet. I had to curl up my legs to sleep there. But my point is, number one, people shouldn't have to leave where they live to get a quality education. Number 2, we need to provide that opportunity if families want to do it. And third, I think the education funding should follow the child. Let the parents decide the best environment for their kids. Don't abandon the inner city schools. Make them better, but don't keep a kid trapped in an underperforming school because of the zip code where they live. We're going to change that. We're going to improve education. I'm a product of it. We're going to make it better. Thank you.
Thank you. And we now invite you to have up to 3 minutes for remarks.
So thank you. It's always great to get in front of people. personally. I'd ask you a couple things. Please don't believe the attack ads. I mean, I don't know where they find these grainy pictures of you, black and white. Hopefully you've seen my ad. I've got 3 daughters. They're terrific people. I'm a product of Connecticut. I'm a product of the public schools. Sometimes I get, well, you're a rich white guy. What can you know about what's going on here? The reason I'm running is I want the opportunity that I had for everybody. I've got 3 older sisters. I won the lottery with my parents. They saved. My dad worked at the phone company for 30 years. He ran the scoreboard at the Yale Bowl for 50 years. But you know what, ladies and gentlemen? They valued an education. One of my sisters was a nurse at UConn. One went to Yale. She got a PhD. One went to Albertus. And I guess I was I went to Fairfield University. I almost got caught there. We need to bring that opportunity back. We have the highest education gap between best performing school and lowest performing school in the entire nation. It's time for a change. I know it's risky to take a change. I get it. But I think after 40 years and some of the things you've mentioned, and I'm glad I got here early to hear the stories today because they were compelling. And I know we don't agree on everything. I get it. But I work for you. The next 2 weeks is a job interview, and you have to decide who's best positioned for the state of Connecticut. You don't work for government. That's what it feels like sometimes. But I work for you. And we have a lot of money up in the Capitol right now. You could argue whether it's $2 billion, $3 billion, $6 billion, whatever. But when somebody gets up here and has to ask for $3 million to implement clean slate legislation, there's something wrong. And when I was at Weisel's drugstore on Dixwell Avenue 2 weeks ago, I used to ride my bike there from Pond Street, and a man is standing in front of Weisel's. And I said, how can I help? He said, well, I don't know whether to walk into that pharmacy and get the medicine I need tonight or go home and afford food for my family. And that's wrong. And we're going to fix it. We're going to give some of that money back. How many people do you know that are filling their oil tanks half full because they can't afford to fill it all the way? That's not our money. It's not government money. It's your money. You paid too much. You need it back. You need it back for mental health. We went through a disaster in COVID. Kids are going to be impaired by this, both socially. 20% of the kids in New Haven testing at the age-appropriate level in math. And we sit there with billions of dollars up in Hartford? I can't wait to win this election because you know what? I'm putting you first. And I'm going to create more opportunities for the kids across Connecticut to do exactly what I was able to do. And I'm going to support, whether you vote for me or not, I'm going to support the hell out of everyone in this audience. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Mr. Stefanowski. One final question for you, Mr. Stefanowski. Thank you for your participation
Always that
today.
last question, that's the tricky one.
We appreciate the meeting that we had with you in preparation for today's assembly. So if you win the November 8th election, will you commit to a public working relationship with CONNECT and agree to an initial follow-up meeting with a team of CONNECT leaders within 60 days of your election?
Absolutely. I believe it's 2 weeks from Wednesday, November 9th. I will be wherever you want me to be at whatever time you want me to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stefanowski. We now invite Governor Lamont to take the center stage. And we will now hear, again, thank you for being with us, Governor. And so we now invite our criminal legal issue team, our mental health team, and education team in that order to come and repeat your questions. You will have a yes or no response and 30 seconds on each question.
All right. How you doing, Governor Lamont? So you weren't in the room the last time, so I want to reiterate this real quick. Clean slate is a huge step in the right direction for Connecticut's criminal justice system, but only if implemented fully and in the proper way. In the years to come, we will look at the changes Clean Slate brings and wonder why we didn't act sooner to lift people up with the real hope, opportunities, and positive changes that Clean Slate brings to thousands of people in Connecticut and the state as a whole. That being said, I would like to ask you, will you commit $3 million of funding over 4 years, $750,000 a year, for a Clean Slate implementation office? And I say this with passion because it's near and dear to my heart, so that the individuals who are eligible for Clean Slate do not fall through the cracks.
Yeah, we are going to do whatever it takes to make sure the Clean Slate works, yes.
Thank you.
I was here 4 years ago, and we talked about second chance. We talked about Clean Slate. One of the first things I did when elected, went to Cheshire Prison, and I saw what it meant for these kids to get that second chance and opportunity. You can't get it if you're sitting around with that on your slate. We're not going to let that happen. We got it done. We're one of the first states in the country, and we're going to do it right.
Governor, if reelected, will you work with CONECT and other advocates to lead the state in investigating the best mix of the two models that we presented, and I know that you are on Zoom, for peer-run respite centers and crisis stabilization centers for our state, and prioritize funding to get pilots opened and operating in our communities during your first 2 years in your term?
Absolutely, and we already are. I'll just say, coming out of COVID, I thought these kids, a lot of them had fallen behind. We got to get them up to speed. We got to make sure about learning loss. And we found out really quickly they were not necessarily ready to learn. They needed a shoulder to lean on. They needed some support. That's why we made the biggest commitment to mental health in the history of the state. And as you point out, that's pilot programs. I want to work with CONECT. I want the very best type of programs. Sometimes as a counselor, sometimes as a coach, sometimes it's a shoulder to lean on, sometimes as peers and friends. Help us lead the way. We've got the resources to do it together.
Governor Lamont, if reelected, may we count on you to lead the charge in fairly and fully funding our school systems now, with at least $250 to $275 million to assure that we can make a seamless transition from COVID relief funding to student-centered investments that will meet the needs of all Connecticut public school students that's been promised some 45 years ago?
The answer is yes, and I think we're already on the way to doing that. You know, working right now, we've had the biggest investment in education in the history of the state, additional hundreds of millions of dollars. On top of that, we got mental health. On top of that, we got workforce. On top of that, we got daycare. I'm going to do everything I can. I used to be a teacher at Harding High School. I know what that inequality is like, and it starts with a great teacher doing everything I can. We're giving mortgage support. We have relationships with historically black colleges, Puerto Rican teacher colleges to get the most diverse, best teachers in the world, get them to come to the great state of Connecticut, and do everything they can to make sure they don't want to just run to the suburbs, but teach in a great school like Harding High, where I was.
Thank you so much, Governor Lamont, for your responses, for your engagement, and for your commitments this afternoon. We now invite you for remarks for up to 3 minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, we will stay in CONECT. I can tell you that, just like we did after the last 4 years, just like we did on Clean Slate. It's a matter of not just promising things, but delivering on your promise. Look, we went through COVID hell over the last 2.5 years, and we got through it because we worked together. We worked together as one, and we realized more than ever the words, we're all in this together. Because if you don't have health care, if you don't have education, if you don't have primary, if you don't have a vaccine, it's unsafe for you and it's unsafe for everybody. So this is why we have a renewed emphasis upon opportunity for each and every one of our people. That's why what I've done in the last 4 years, really focused on the most family-friendly state in the country. I mentioned what we're doing, making sure there's a nurse there before your child is born, after your child is born, making sure there's paid family and medical leave so you can spend a little time with that baby when born, give him or her the very best head start in life. Speaking of Head Start, the expansion of daycare and child care and infant care to give those kids the very best chance. This is what we've done, and this is what we will continue to do. Thank you. I got to say to the religious community, thank you. When it came to getting through COVID, we needed you to convince people how important it was occasionally to wear the mask, to get tested, vaccinated. And because we are the most vaccinated, least infected state in the country, thanks to each and every one of you, our schools were the first to open. Nothing more important than that. And we got our teachers back and got those kids back in the game. I think that was incredibly valuable. And now it's a matter of making sure, for the first time in my life, and I'm a little older, I've been around for a while, we've got 100,000 jobs out there ready to be filled. Ready to be filled by the kids I used to teach at Harding High School, and a lot of the young people in your congregations, or some of you looking to make a changing career. We've got that extraordinary opportunity. I'm going to give them that chance. I'm going to give them the startup capital if that's what they need. I'm going to give them the workforce training if that's what they need. But I want to make sure that our young people stay in the state of Connecticut, know this is a place of opportunity, regardless of background, regardless of zip code, regardless of race, color, or creed. We want you here. And nobody understands that better than the faith community, each and every one of you. A whole variety of different faiths working together as one. I like to think that's the Connecticut story. We celebrate our diversity. We know we're stronger for it, and we're just getting started. My name is Ned Lamont, and I approve this message. Thank you, everybody.
Governor Lamont.
Yes. I already said yes.
You have said yes. And we thank you for, Governor Lamont, we thank you for our ability to work with you and meet with you during your first term. Just to make sure we've all got it, if you are reelected on November 8th, will you commit to a public working relationship and agree to an initial follow-up meeting with a team of CONECT leaders within 60 days of your election?
Just like last time, yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all of our candidates. Thank you, Governor Lamont. Thank you, Mr. Stefanowski. Thank you, Mr. Rapini, Representative Thomas, Mr. Russell. We now invite our past co-chair of CONECT, the Reverend Dr. Anthony Bennett, forward for some closing reflections.
So, they have given me 30 seconds. It said 3 minutes, all right. Listen, let me just thank Dr. Andel and Dr. Liz Keenan for a marvelous job that they have done. Let's thank all of our presenters who reported out. Let's thank our fine organizers, lead organizer Matt McDermott. Let's thank God and all of our organizers. And I want to thank you, CONECT, for the way in which you keep doing good work, getting into good trouble. Thank you. Thank you. I would be remiss, though, if I did not do it. I think I got 20 more seconds, right? All right. Let me thank the wonderful people of the Mount Airy Baptist Church for their support and leadership to lift this organization, along with Father Jim Manship. And now St. Rose of, there he is, Jim Manship. And another partner in crime, Therese Lefevre. We celebrate you. Another person that I think, there's one other person that I need to acknowledge as I share my remarks. Pat Spear.
Where is Pat? I must never forget, we celebrate this. Connect started with conversations with Pat Spear and I. Sharing our frustrations, our fears, and look at it. More than a decade later, we are all here. Thank you. I want to end, and to all of our candidates, we are glad that you all have shared. I want to end the way that I've just come off a sabbatical. I'm thankful again for the wonderful people of Mount Airy, because this work, you know, is not easy. And so I had to reach for the words of the elders. And one of the elders in the African American community, the civil rights community, is the Reverend Dr. Otis Moss Jr., co-pastor, yes, civil rights icon, contemporary of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., co-pastor of Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta. He was recently in the summertime speaking to a group of leaders, educators with the Children's Defense Fund down at the Alex Haley Farm in Tennessee. And it was a part of the morning meditation that he wanted to challenge and encourage all the wonderful millennial persons and all the seasoned persons who were there to learn how they could advocate and speak up on behalf of children. It is the organization that Dr. Marion Wright Edelman founded, an international organization. Dr. Otis Moss Jr. lifted up a New Testament scripture, Christian scripture, that said, "Let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we will reap if we faint not." He shared this, and what he shared with us was the context that we are in right now, the present day. It seems as though there is a very strategic and orchestrated effort of evil to bring division and to lift up division in the midst of all that is happening in this country. And there are those of us who are doing the good work, getting into good trouble, that at times can feel discouraged, wondering if our efforts are ever going to make the kind of difference that we desire. And Dr. Otis Moss took us back in history and reminded us that in 1857, the Supreme Court of this country ruled, in essence, that there was not a right that black men had that white people had to acknowledge, let alone adhere to. In 1857. And yet, Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, and many other nameless people kept doing good. And eventually the Emancipation Proclamation came forth. Dr. Moss challenged us when he said, those of you who are waiting for evil to move in order for you to do good or back up, he reminded us there was never a time in American history where evil was not present. And so good people had to learn how to do good even in the presence of evil. Connect. We're going to keep doing good in the presence of redlining, in the presence of racism, in the presence of anti-Semitism. We're going to keep doing good until good comes about. God bless you. God keep you.
We thank God for our founder, none other than the Reverend Dr. Anthony Bennett of the Mount Airy Baptist Church, the best church on Frank Street is what they tell me. Thank God. It's the only church on Frank Street. Thank you so much, Dr. Bennett, our founder, as well as Father Jim Manship, our other co-founder of CONECT. God bless you, Father Manship. So we are going to keep doing good in the presence of evil. One of the ways we do that before we leave today, we want to urge you to go vote. If you're not registered, you can do that today on your way out. There is a table there in the lobby for you to register, and we encourage you to encourage all of your congregation to vote on November 8th.
And more opportunities for good trouble. The other QR code on your agenda is to get engaged in one of our issue teams: criminal legal reform, mental health, and education. If you want to get trained about how to do organizing in your community, watch your email for the trainings coming up next week and in November. Guests, we invite you to join with us. Please reach out to our organizers to learn more about becoming part of this good work. And to wrap us up today, we want to celebrate 463 people, 315 in person, and 147 on Zoom. To close us out, Rabbi Evan Schultz, the rabbi of this beloved community, will offer the closing prayer.
Good afternoon, CONECT. I just thank you all so much for being here this afternoon. Speak for all of us at B'nai Israel. It's such an honor to host this assembly, so thank you, thank you, thank you. In just a moment, I will offer a closing prayer to our gathering here this afternoon. I just want to invite us to take a moment to receive all that we have heard and learned this afternoon. Divine Spirit, we thank you for the gift of gathering together today. We are grateful for all of these incredible human beings you crafted in your very image. May you bless all of those who run for elected office. Imbue within them the strength to serve us and the love for all of the inhabitants of this state of Connecticut. Offer each of us wisdom to listen to their words and their ideals, and to vote with our minds and our hearts, and to pray with our weary feet to better our state and our land for all who dwell here. May all of us who volunteer and organize through CONECT be inspired to continue this work of faith and action, hand in hand, listening to one another's stories and believing in the power of partnership and partnerships that highlight the best of organized power. May we all be emboldened by one another and the teachings and traditions of our sacred faiths to do this work on the ground that you so tenderly crafted with love and with care. We are humbled to do this holy work of raising our voices and speaking our truths. May you be near to us always in our cities and our towns. May we never be satisfied until your world is made whole once again. Let us be strong, and let us always strengthen one another. And together we say, Amen.
We now call for an adjournment. It's so moved, we are adjourned. Go in peace.